So welcome to Build Your Website with WordPress, Part 3. Again, today's panelist is Nathan Smith. He's the digital literacy specialist with the Central Arkansas Library System, or as we know it here in Little Rock, CALS. Take it away, Nathan.
Hey, all right. Let's dive in. So again, I'm just going to start by logging into my site so that we can get rolling. Up here in my address bar, I'm going to go to the address of my site, CALS ASBTDC 520.wordpress.com. But then before I hit enter, I'll type a slash and do wp-admin. And that'll take me back to that dashboard so that I can get rolling. And if I was not signed in yet to my WordPress.com account, it would prompt me to sign in there. Okay, so we're going to kind of tackle a few different things that I want to make sure, get covered for you before we wrap up, that are not as big a topics as particularly yesterday's session. Yesterday's session, we really go deep into the editor, since that's where you spend most of the time that you're actually creating the content of your site that your visitors are going to see. But probably the second most important place to spend some time when you're working on content for your visitors is in the customizer. The customizer is a place where you can change a lot of the settings of your theme, as well as a lot of other general settings about your site, and add some sort of nice finishing touches, and sort of get everything really nice the way you want it to be. So we're going to spend a good deal of time talking about the customizer. Then we're going to go ahead and talk just briefly about and we're going to talk about managing your menus and things like that. We're going to talk just briefly about the e-commerce options in WordPress, so that you have an idea of a few of those types of, a few of those things. We're going to talk a little bit about how where you go to connect your social media accounts and things like that, because of course that's an important part of marketing when you are a small business or even a large business these days. We're going to talk about exporting your content, just in case you decide that WordPress.com is not the right host for you and you want to create a website with another hosting platform. And depending on your budget, honestly, who could blame you? And then we'll have hopefully a fair bit of time for questions and answers toward the end there. So let's see. Oh, looks like I did get one question already that was passed along to me from yesterday's session. This person says, could you clarify a statement I made, which they paraphrase as, you can't do part of your changes one day and the other changes the next day. Okay. The person says, can't I create a draft and not publish it until the remaining changes are made the next day? Yes, you can. The difference, or the reason I said that is that I'm sorry that I guess it was unclear. What I was referring to was the specific situation where you have a page that's already published. Once you publish a page or a post, that page or post is live. If you go in and make any changes to them, you can't save those changes, those updates to the page, as a draft. You can either make all the changes you want to and then update the existing page or post, or you can leave it alone, I guess, or you can, those are basically your two options. You can't either schedule a new version of the page to be posted later, or come to your existing already published page or post, make a few changes to it, but not all the changes you want to make, save that as a draft, and then come back later and publish the new version of the page. You have to make all those changes at once or none of them at all if you want them to all go live at the same time. You know, if you made only some of the changes, the only way to save them is to publish them. And so you'd be essentially be publishing a half-finished version of the page. So that's why I mentioned that. I think there probably are some plugins that allow you to get around that, to sort of save a draft of a new version of an existing page. But the built-in tools that WordPress gives you don't offer that option. So that's a good question. Glad to be able to clarify that. So let's, yeah. Okay, let's dig into the customizer. So the customizer is a nice little tool that lets you tweak particularly the appearance of your site, but also a lot of other things. From here in the dashboard, I could go down to appearance and click customize. But I'm going to go and click on the My Sites button up here and find this My Site menu. In this menu, if I want to get to the customizer, I'm going to come down to where it says design. And if that's not expanded, I'm going to click the little arrow to expand it down. And then I'm going to click customize over here. And what that'll do, it'll give me loading the customizer for just a second. Excuse me. And then I have my my home page showing up here. You have two different views here. On the left-hand side, this is the customizer menu, and we're going to be going through some of these options in detail. And over here on the right-hand side is essentially a preview version of the page that you're working on. You can use this preview view to browse anywhere on your site that you want. So if I want to see how the changes I'm making are going to affect, say, the About page, I can click over there and I can start working over here in the customizer, and I can see those changes happen over here on the other side of the, of my screen. And the nice thing about the customizer is, unlike what I just mentioned about published posts and pages, changes that you make in the customizer, you can, you can make changes in the customizer to existing pages without having to back up or without having to make them all go live at once. You can save them as a draft. You can mull over them for a day or two. You can even actually send them to someone else to look over and approve, or provide editorial feedback, or if you're working on something for someone else, then to let them look over it before you just go ahead and make those changes live. So that's really handy. And I'll show you how all that works in a minute. For right now, I can't show you that because I haven't made any changes yet. A couple other key things to mention about the customizer before we dive into the specifics of it. One of those things is down here at the bottom, you'll see these three little icons. There's a computer monitor, a little tablet, and a little smartphone here. And if you click on one of those, it's going to take you to that version of your site, which is really, really handy. Now I can see how it's going to look, when my customer pulls out their smartphone and visits my website, rather than if they were sitting at their computer. I can also see the tablet version. It's a little bit wider. It looks a little bit more like the regular desktop version, but not quite. These little things are wrapping a little bit, and just depending on the way that my theme's designed, there might be significant differences between the desktop version, the tablet version, and the mobile version. So, so you may, if you do nothing else in the customizer, which there's other stuff you should definitely do in the customizer, but if you do nothing else in the customizer, you definitely want to check that out and just make sure that your site still works and still kind of foregrounds the information that you want to pass along to your visitors, regardless of what device they're using to access your site. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that these options will vary. For any of you that either started out with a different theme than I did when you first created your website, or any of you that that changed your theme, which that's great, you know, make it what you want it to be, or any of you that changed your theme who previously had the theme that I'm still using right now. In those situations, you will probably see different options over on this left-hand side, particularly if you choose a more advanced theme with a lot more special, nifty, cool features. Those additional options over there can really change pretty significantly. So I say that only because if you don't see every single option I have, although I think all the options that I have are going to be in almost all of the themes. If you don't see quite the same options that I have, or if you see more options, the reason that you're seeing that is those are specific to your theme that you're using on your site. So if you ever switch themes, you may just want to look here in the customizer just to see what options you have. That can be really helpful sometimes. Honestly, as someone who teaches technology classes and, you know, has to learn new software in order to be able to teach it to other people, many times that's how I learn software, is by just opening it up and going, ooh, look at all the buttons, and kind of like just playing around with it, basically. The nice thing about technology nowadays is, you know, back in the day when I first started getting into technology, you could get into a lot more trouble by just fooling around with stuff, basically. But now, most of the people who make technology for a living, if they're good at their job, they know that most of the people who are using the product that they're making are not technology experts. They're just regular people who want to get stuff done. And so they're likely to build in, you know, in most software and even most like hardware products, folks are going to build in a lot of guardrails. And if you're about to do something that will that could potentially cause a major catastrophe, usually you'll see a big old error message that says, hey, this could cause a potential catastrophe. Are you sure you want to do it? And you'll have the option to bail at that point. So I highly recommend that. Experimenting, playing around, just getting practice. Those are the best ways to learn about technology. Okay, so that's my little experiment spiel. Let's dive into the customizer. We're going to start with this site identity bit right here. When I click on that, it's going to change my sidebar here and show me a bunch of options related to essentially the branding of my site, more or less. And obviously, since we're talking about making sites for small businesses, having a good brand and being consistent about it is pretty important. That gives you, you know, that really matters in terms of projecting professionalism and engendering trust in your business. And so it's pretty important. So if you were able to do the quote unquote homework that I mentioned at the end of Tuesday's session, then hopefully you have a logo and or an icon. So this is where those are going to come into play. If not, in the PDF that Tim sent out, or by following the link that he sent in the chat there, you can download that zip file that I made, which includes the example logo and the example icon that I'm going to be using for the demo. And you can feel free to use those as a placeholder. So up here, I have a little gray area that says select logo, and I have this button that says create logo. The select logo button is the one that we want. If you click create logo, what it's going to do is take you to this separate company called Looka that is, as far as I recall, basically a place where you can enlist the help of a professional graphic designer to make you a logo. I've never used this service. It may or may not be good. I mean, it's probably fine considering that WordPress.com specifically features them as an option, but that's definitely not what we're going to do today. What I'm going to do instead is click select logo, and that's going to take me to a couple of options here. Up here at the top, you'll notice I'm on the upload files tab, and if I go down here and click select files, or I drag and drop a file from my computer's file browser into this area here, then that will upload that to my that'll upload it to my site from my computer. The other option, if I've already uploaded the image, is to click Media Library over here, and that's going to take me to the files I've already uploaded to my site that I could use as a logo. In this case, though, I'm going to stick with Upload Files. I'm going to click Select Files here to grab that media browser. And the logo that I have is souplogo.png here. So I'm going to click on that and click Open. And now it's been uploaded to my media library, so I can reuse it whenever I want to. And it's checked right here, which shows that that one's been designated. Okay, this is my logo now. Over here on the right-hand side, we didn't see this yesterday, but I do want to call this out just briefly, are some additional options of information, what we call metadata, that you can fill in about your images when you upload them. Normally, of course, there's a title. You can give the image a specific title if you want to. I usually don't mess with that. To be honest, I don't usually do these other two, but I'll just tell you about them briefly here in a sec. And then there's the alt text. It says, describe the purpose of the image. Leave empty if the image is purely decorative. So if the image is purely for decoration, it's not communicating any specific information, or it's not super duper important to audiences understanding the content of your website for them to be able to see the image, then you can leave this blank. Otherwise, you definitely want to fill this in. The alt text is a pretty important thing, actually, for a couple of reasons. Number one, and most important, is accessibility. For folks who can't see the images that are in, that are associated with your website, for those who can't see those images, if you are relying completely on your images to tell the story, you are effectively shutting them out of your business's website. If you have but the other big thing is also pretty important, and that is search engine optimization. If you have an image that communicates important information and you don't give a brief description in the alt text, then search engines, which don't have eyes or visual cortices, will not be able to understand what's going on your website, at least probably not. I mean, obviously that kind of stuff's getting improving over time, artificial intelligence and so forth, but mostly search engines like Google and Bing and DuckDuckGo rely on text information and the structure of your pages on your site, the structure of the site overall, to really understand how your site works and what kind of content is there. So again, unless the image is purely decorative, you want to make sure you fill in that alt text. So I'm just going to fill this in with a bowl of cream soup. That works just fine. It doesn't have to be super long. I think some places, like I think if you fill in alt text on an image on Facebook, you have to actually keep it to 100 characters or less, and that seems like a good rule. If it's too long, then it's going to be really annoying for people using screen reader software, because if they happen to to tap on or move over that image, then they want to know it's there, but they don't want to hear 3 paragraphs about it. So you want to keep it punchy, but make sure you describe it so that they can understand what's going on your page. I can change the title if I want to, but I don't really need to. The caption down here, in some themes and in some situations, this caption will show up. So so you want to make sure that that you fill it in if you want a caption, but honestly, if you don't, the easiest thing to do is just leave it blank, and I almost always leave it blank. I'm not going to lie to you. If you need to provide, for some reason, a much more detailed description of your image, you can do that in this description box down here. And I'm going to click select to select that. Okay, looks like a question was just sent through. What do we got here? Where is the select logo button? So it's not a button. It was kind of a gray area that showed up in the okay, so in the customizer, if you click customize pretty much wherever, it'll show the little customizer menu over there. I'm describing this visually because we're in the middle of doing this, but I can show you where it is here in a sec too. So in the customizer, the first entry on mine at least was site identity. I clicked on site identity, and then there's a gray shaded area near the top of that that says select logo, just above the button that says create logo. And I'll reiterate where that is in a minute. For now though, since I've selected this as my logo, I'm going to go ahead and crop it down a little bit. The suggestion is that it be about square. I'm going to just crop it down basically as much to get rid of as much of the extra box around it as I can. Now this is a PNG file, and so it does support and does include a transparent background. And so all this white space you're seeing around the logo is going to disappear when I actually select this as my logo. You'll be able to see through it. If you use a file for your logo that's not a PNG format file, it's not going to have that transparency support. And so you are going to get an ugly white or black box around your logo, depending on what's in the file. So highly recommend that you get a copy with a transparent background. If you made your own logo, you can use a lot of different image editing software to take care of this. The one that I suggest to folks more often than not is a piece of software called GIMP, which stands for the GNU Image Manipulation Program, which is a free open source image editing program that has tons of very useful features and is basically up until the point at which there was a budget for me to get Photoshop, that was pretty much all I used. So that's what I'd recommend. Obviously if you've worked with a graphic designer to create your logo, you can just contact them and say, can I get a copy of my logo with a transparent background? And they'll be able to get it to you in 2 minutes, because that's how they will have made it in the first place. Okay, so I've resized that. I'm going to click crop image. And now you'll notice it's showing up here. And I do have, now that I've got a logo in place, I do have a change logo button and I have a remove. With this particular theme, this logo is not that great because frankly, it's too big. And just depending on how your theme is set up, you may need to adjust the size a little bit. And usually WordPress will actually suggest it to you. If I click remove here, yeah, there's the select logo option that I clicked on before. So in the customizer, it's site identity and then select logo there. You'll notice up here at the top, it says suggested image dimensions, 100 by 96 pixels. So what they suggest is an image that's almost square and a little bit pretty small, honestly. I'm surprised that they want it to be that small, but whatever. I'm going to click the X up here, and I'll get that out of our way. For now, with this theme and with the version of the logo that I have, I don't even want to use this logo. Okay, cool. So my site title and tagline are here, the ones that I defined earlier, and of course they show up at the top of the page with this particular theme. Let me switch back to the desktop version. If I want to hide those, I can totally do that. I'll just uncheck this little box here. Excuse me. And now I have a blank area there instead. Some themes will give you the option to just turn off the tagline or to toggle each of them separately, that sort of thing. So, again, you might have slightly different options here. Okay, so the other couple of things here, we have this site icon. So the site icon, it says they're what you see in browser tabs, bookmark bars, and within the WordPress mobile apps, upload one here. So this is what we're talking about in terms of the icon. Number one, up here at the very top, you'll see it says Customizer, build your website with WordPress, WordPress.com. So it's showing me where I'm working, the customizer, and what website I'm on, and then that it's part of WordPress.com up here at the top. And you'll notice next to that, I've got the little WordPress logo right there. You'll also see I've got a WordPress logo here in this bookmark that I have for the site. So I can, but I can change this. Rather than the WordPress logo, I can use my own logo here. So I'm going to come down and click Select Site Icon. And again, I'll go to Upload Files up here at the top. And then click Select Files here. And favicon.png is the example file that I'm using. So this little orange circle-y thing. All right, and again, I can fill in this information if I want. I don't really need alt text for my icon. Everything looks good. So I'll click select. And again, it's prompting me to crop it. If I didn't have something that was exactly square or round, then I would want to crop this. As it stands, it's good. So I'm going to click crop image and move on. Okay, so it shows it to me on a black background like this, but really it's not going to show up that way. It's going to look something more like this once I actually apply these changes to my website. Anytime you make a change, of course you've already noticed this, anytime that I make a change to my site here in the customizer, it shows up live over here in the in this version of the website automatically. But if my visitors happen to be browsing the site while I'm working on it in the customizer, they're just going to see the old version. None of these changes have gone live just yet, and so I don't have to worry about things. Essentially, I don't have to worry about making a mistake here in the customizer. If I make a mistake, I can always set it back to the way I want it to be. Okay, so down here at the bottom, I've got the footer credit, and this can vary depending on where your WordPress site is hosted. It might just give you a sort of a copyright and then whatever the name of the website is. Sometimes, sometimes it'll do that. But in this particular instance, because we're using the free version of WordPress.com, it gives us the default footer credit, which is build your website with WordPress, blog at WordPress.com. So this is the footer credit here, blog at WordPress.com. If I want to change this, then I'm going to need to go down here and click this drop-down menu. And because I'm using the free version of WordPress.com, or honestly, even if I was using one of the less expensive plans, less expensive than the business plan, I can choose how my footer credit appears, but I can't remove the footer credit altogether. So if I wanted to not have this at all, then I'd be out of luck, basically. So I don't have that option, but what I can do, and my sort of preferred option out of these, is to click the one that says WordPress.com logo. And that's just going to put a little WordPress logo at the very bottom of my page. And that's pretty unobtrusive. And, honestly, all that really signals to anybody who's not paying attention is this is a site that was made with WordPress, which is a lot of the sites. So that's really no problem. All right, so I made those changes. I'm going to click this little left arrow to get out of my site identity thing here, and I can continue on with this. If I click Save Changes up here, then it will actually update with the things that I made. I wonder if they got rid of that option that they used to have here. Interesting. Huh. Well, as of the last time I taught this class, you were able to save kind of a draft and come back to it, or those sorts of things. Looks like maybe they've gotten rid of that. I wonder if that's now a paid feature of some sort. That's slightly annoying, but okay. Anyway, when I click save up there, let's double check and see if the changes go live. Sure enough. All right, well, all right. Sorry about that. Looks like they've changed it up on us. Okay, let's continue looking at the rest of these options here. The menus option here is super duper useful as well. When I click on that, what it's going to do is take me to a few different useful settings that I can tweak. Well, one thing to think about with WordPress in terms of what you might call the, I don't know, I guess the lingo of WordPress is in computer world, when we talk about a menu, we're usually saying like, they're usually kind of two different things that we talk about. One is sort of the space where there's a list of options, and the other is the actual list of options. But WordPress distinguishes between those two things. A good way to describe it would be, let's say that I go, you know, my wife and I go to a restaurant with our son. When we get to the restaurant, they're going to give us each a menu on the table before we sit down. You know, my wife and I will have the normal menu, and my son will probably get a kids menu. And usually, if there's, you know, when they're seating us, they're gonna seat us because there are 3 of us at a table that accommodates 4 people. And so theoretically, they could put another menu down somewhere, but they probably won't, because there are only 3 of us, and that way they have as many menus as they need available for other actual real customers. So that's a pretty good analogy for how WordPress deals with menus. When we say a menu in WordPress, a menu is just a list of options, like the menu of dishes that my wife and I or our son could possibly order at the restaurant. And then each theme has a number of menu locations. Well, I say a number, that implies that there's always more than one. There's not always more than one. Some themes have as few as 1 menu location. I can't think of any reason that a theme would have 0. And some themes have significantly more. I've seen at least up to 3, maybe 4. And you can, with each of those menu locations, you can put a different set of options there. In other words, you know, a menu, or you can put the same menu, the same set of options in every location. So let's actually look at the locations first. I'm going to click View All Locations over here. And then, let's start with the actual lists of options, because that can be a little more helpful sometimes. Okay, so there are 2 menus, 2 lists of options that have been pre-configured for me with my site when I set it up. The first is the primary menu. It's called primary. And when I click on that, I can see the 4 navigational options that I have up at the top of my page there: home, blog, about, and contact. Now, if you recall, yesterday we created another static page that we could link to here. And so what I want to do is I want to add that option to my menu, and I want to tweak a few extra helpful settings down here. But first I want to kind of show you how this works. So this is the list of options that's associated with the primary menu, the primary list of options. If I remove one, then every menu location that has the primary menu attached to it is going to change. So if I remove the link to the home page from this list of options, then anywhere that the primary menu appears throughout my site, the home link will automatically disappear from all of those places. If I change the order, then the order will change in all of those places. And if I add an item, then that item will be added in all of those locations. So if I want to reorder them, the easiest way I can do it, let's say I went about before the blog, I will click on and hold on the blog and drag it down underneath about. Now I do have to drag it kind of straight down. You'll notice I get dotted lines over here that are flush with the edge of about and contact over here. Or if I drag it a little further to the right, I get an indent right here. The indent makes this into a sub item of the original one, and we'll actually be doing that here in a second. But for now, I'll just put the blog underneath about, and you'll notice over here, instead of home blog about, we now have home about blog. And then I'm going to add that new page that we created yesterday. So I'm going to click plus add items down here, and that slides out a second sidebar here. With the second sidebar, I have a bunch of different categories of things that I can add to my menu, a lot of different things, which is pretty helpful. Pages is the one that's expanded by default, and so I have a lot of the ones that I already have on there: the home, blog, contact, and about. And here's the one I created yesterday, new page. I'm going to click plus next to that, and that's going to create a new page in my menu over here on the left. And now I can drag it to where I wanted it to be. Yesterday I said I wanted it to be a child page of about. And so since that's the case, since I want this to sort of be a sub item, I'm going to drag it over so that it's indented underneath about and let go. And now you'll notice there it is, indented. And if I move my mouse over about in the menu at the top, you'll now see new page down there below. So it's working beautifully. The other types of things that I can add here, so custom links. Custom links, you basically just put the URL, the web address for the place you want to link to. And then under here where it says link text, you put a title for it. If it's any sort of content that's on your website, you don't have to use a custom link to get to it. You can just you can select that from the pages or posts or categories or tags down below. If it's somewhere that's outside of your website though, then you definitely would want to fill this in. If I wanted to say, for instance, put a link to the library, there we go. And I'll click add to menu. And now I've got a link there in my on my site, or in my menu. So posts here, I can see a list of the most recent posts or popular posts or whatever it does there. I can add a new post. If I have enough, then I can also, like that these don't appear, or that the one I want doesn't appear here, I can also search up at the top, and that'll work just fine to find basically anything on my site. Categories, once I've defined categories for my blog posts, I can choose a category here. And what it'll do when I add that category to my menu is it will do a search for all the posts that are categorized that way. And it'll just show the visitor a list of those posts when they click on that item in the menu. And then tags are the same thing. If you add a tag here that's associated with your posts, when they click on that option in the menu, it'll do a search for all the blog posts that have that tag attached to them. Once I'm done adding items to my menu, I'll go over here and click the button again that says add items so that it collapses it down. You'll notice the little plus sign cleverly turns on its side into an X and then turns back around when I click it. And down here, I can tweak my menu locations. So there are 3 menu locations in this on this site: primary, footer menu, and the social links menu. And I can, right now, the primary one is also showing up in the confusingly also named primary menu location. But if I wanted it to show up in these other places, I could put it there. And then menu options down here. This one is really useful, and I recommend this unless you find yourself, I mean, your mileage may vary, but I generally do this myself. There's a checkbox that says automatically add new top-level pages to this menu. So whenever you add a page that doesn't have a parent page associated with it, then you'll, whenever you publish that page, it will automatically also appear in this menu if you have that box checked. Excuse me. And then if you don't like this list of options and you need to start from scratch or you're not using it anymore, you can click delete menu down here. I'll click the back button up here. And now I have a second preset list of options here, the social menu. When I click on that, you'll notice that I can, that it has custom links already set up for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and WordPress. But if I expand these, you'll notice that obviously these are not the links that you want on your page. What you'll want to do for each of these, if you have presences for your business or whatever your website is for on those social media platforms, let's say you have a Facebook business page, you can expand this out. And then you'll want to replace that URL with specifically the address of your business page on Facebook. So that way, when folks visit your site, they have a quick way to get directly to your presence on that social media platform, and so on and so forth. Because obviously, if they have a Facebook account, they probably already know how to get to Facebook itself without you linking to it. Down here underneath, again, I have my menu location checkboxes, and there's actually a specific location built into this theme for a social links menu, which, hey, this actually is. So I can go ahead and check this box. And once I do that, you'll notice, oh, hey, we've got our nice little social media icons up here at the top. Beautiful. All right. And so if I want to start with a new list of options, let's say I want to, then I can click create new menu, and it'll basically give me the same sidebar I was working with earlier when I was editing the primary menu, but blank, so I can start from scratch. When I click view all locations, it's going to give me a drop-down box for each location that my menus could be. So the primary location is up here, this menu, of course. The social links menu, of course, is right here, as we saw. And then the footer menu. I can either create a new blank menu and then go in and configure it after I've said, okay, this is the menu. This new one will be the menu that goes in the footer menu. Or I can click the drop down and select from the existing lists of options. So I'll go ahead and put the primary navigation menu again at the footer. Let's scroll down there. When I click on primary, my view refreshes, and now I have the same navigational options down here. Now it looks like because they're specifically in the footer, when I mouse over about, it doesn't show the child page down there. So I will that's something that is configured or that's determined by the theme. But it's got all my high-level options, and that's pretty good. Okay, so that's menus and menu locations. Remember, just the menu is the list of options. The menu locations are the places you can put them. In my restaurant analogy, each little, each place that I can set a chair is a menu location, and each actual menu that says hamburger, cheeseburger, whatever is the menu itself. Okay, so let's talk about widgets. Widgets are pretty cool. They can do a bunch of different things. So you'll notice when I click widgets right away, it actually says footer up here. Just like menus, widgets, which are little pieces of reusable content that can appear throughout your site. If you don't know what I mean by that, just bear with me and you'll see it in a moment. But just like menus, widgets have specific locations that are designated inside your theme, depending on what your theme is. You might have several different widget locations, or in the case of this particular theme that I'm using, I only have one. Now you can put multiple widgets in a single widget location if you want to. That's perfectly acceptable, and in fact is completely normal. But I only have one spot on the page where they can appear. Other than, actually, if you recall yesterday when we were looking at the editor, you can actually insert a widget block into your page manually, and then have a widget in some specific location inside of your page. So you could do that too. But the normal widget location that's designated by my theme is in the footer, and so it took me straight to that because that's the only place I can put a widget in this particular theme. When I click add a widget, again, whoops, there we go. Again, it gives me this little sidebar right here, second sidebar that I can access, and it gives me a bunch of different options that I can choose from. There are and a lot of these I'm not going to go into because they're either specific for various use cases, or they're like or there's something that's fairly self-explanatory, or they're just a little obscure, honestly. Some highlights: you can put in an audio player and have some kind of audio, some kind of audio that you can play back, or that your audience can play back by clicking a little play button. Not auto-playing audio, thank goodness. That is mostly a thing of the past these days. That used to be a plague on the internet back in the 90s. Then archives, which will show essentially a big list organized monthly of your blog posts. Authors, these are if you had a site that was run by multiple people, or where multiple people shared content, you could essentially have a little display for each author, and that works on your site and show what they've recently written. Stats of your blog, so like people can see how many visitors you've had and things like that. Honestly, don't do that. Nobody does that anymore. It seems like a bad idea to me. A list of the categories on your site, a calendar which shows different posts essentially laid out in a calendar format, posts that you've put on your blog, the category cloud, and similarly down here, the tag cloud. Both of those will basically take the categories and tags that you use the most and display them as links in big letters, and the categories and tags that you use the least, it'll display in tiny letters. Basically, folks can, the things that your site is, that your posts are most often about, there'll be a big word there, and they can click on that and see all of the posts that are tagged with that, or all of the posts that are categorized that way. You've got a, if you use Flickr, for example, you can display the photos that you've recently posted there. You can have a little Facebook page plugin, so if you ever see those little boxes that show like all the other ones of your friends that like this particular thing on Facebook, it's that. You can allow people to follow you on WordPress.com, so if they're fellow WordPress.com users, they can see you in the feed up there, the feed reader. You can put just a random image. You can put a list of links to sites that are related, or sites that you find interesting that your visitors might like. You can display a little pop-up form saying, hey, subscribe to our MailChimp newsletters. That's pretty handy if you have MailChimp. There's a list of pages. And there's just random text. There's one that I think I passed already. Yeah, custom HTML. You can put a little bit of HTML code in there, just pretty much whatever it is, except for some specific things. Your Twitter timeline. You can show your last few tweets, essentially, a video, or a display of upcoming events. If you have a public digital calendar, like say on Google Calendar or something like that, you can show all those events on a little calendar on your page. And search. Let me add a search widget here. When I add the search widget, by clicking on it, I get a little search box down here. I can start typing and I can click the search button to search my site. If I want to, I can add a little title, Google search or whatever. I can delete it if I need to, or I can click done if I'm done editing this. Some widgets obviously will have more settings than just a title, but this one doesn't. If I click visibility down here, then I can set certain rules about when the widget will and will not show up. If I don't set any rules, then it'll just show up at the bottom of every page in that same footer widget area. But if, for example, I say show if page is, and then let's say front page, then it'll show only here on the home page. But if I browse to another page, I'll just click done here, say about, for example, it's not going to show up because the rule is if this is the front page, show it. If it's not, don't. And you can add multiple rules and choose whether, essentially, if you check match all conditions here, then you can set several rules and say, if it's not this way, and this way, then don't show it, or do show it. And the other option, if you don't check match all conditions, then if it meets any one of the conditions, then it will show it or hide it. Yeah, and if I add another widget, let's say, I don't know, the WordPress follow button, for example, then if I scroll down, there it is right there. And if I go back to the home page, you can see they're just right here in the order that I set them up. So here's the search widget, here's the follow button. If I uncheck that, it's just follow. That's nicer, I think. And then I can drag those around if I want to. So that's widgets. Widgets are these little pieces of reusable content. If you want something in particular to appear on every page, then put it in a widget. That's the best way to do that. And where the widgets show up just depends on how your theme is built. So let's look at this last area. So there is an additional CSS option here, but that is an option that's included in paid versions of WordPress.com. So we're not going to go there. For now, we'll just ignore that one. I'm going to click on the home page settings. This is kind of an important one, depending on how you want to structure your site. So some folks use their site more as a, use their WordPress site more as a blog rather than as a, like a, a kind of normal website, I guess. But the way that but some folks, most folks are probably going to use kind of the traditional homepage and then have the blog as a part of their site, but not necessarily the main attraction. Some folks who are using it primarily as a blog will want to change this up. Rather than your homepage displays your latest posts, or rather than your homepage displays a static page, which is what we got by default, instead we'll switch it to or I'm not going to now, but if I wanted to feature my blog primarily, I would switch this to your latest posts instead. And then I need to designate a static page for each of my for each of those functions, the home page and the posts page. So I don't know why the posts page isn't already blog, but go figure. Anyway, there we go. So that's all set up, and I can hide or display the home page title if I want to here with that checkbox. Okay, so I made changes to my site. I'm pretty happy with how everything looks at this moment. So I'm going to go up here to the top in the customizer and click Save Changes. Actually, before I do that, yeah, I'm going to click Save Changes. And I'm going to see what happens if I try to exit the customizer without saving. Oh, okay, so it just takes me back. Thought maybe they had hidden that preview or that save draft function somewhere else, but alas, not so much. Okay, so it's taken me back here. I'm going to click View Site here, or over here in the My Site menu, I can click this little Home button. By the way, if you're working with your site and you get this little outside area here where you see like the My Sites menu and this little drop down that says desktop and a little visit site button, you can go ahead and click visit site, and that's going to take you to your site as your visitors will actually see it. The other way, the other way is kind of more set up to preview and flip things around so that you can see like the desktop version versus the mobile version versus the tablet version, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. So what I want to do now is dive into some of the smaller little topics so that we can talk about those just briefly. One of the there are a few, if you're going to be selling something on your site, there are a few sort of basic the basic thing you'll need to do is to figure out how, like, what you're trying to sell and how it's going to be delivered and that sort of thing. And based on that, you can come to a conclusion about what type of plugin you want to use for your site. So probably the most popular plugin that I might tend to favor, unless there are other sort of mitigating factors, probably the most popular one is WooCommerce. WooCommerce is actually made by Automatic, the same company that makes WordPress and WordPress.com. And so they are, what they're doing is, and so it's built to really integrate very tightly with WordPress. It's the same people who are making it. So, so they have a lot of WordPress experience, obviously, and it's really, really useful. Some things to think about are, there's other stuff. For instance, there's easy digital downloads. If you're just selling something digital on your site, for example, if you're doing, say, art for people, or if you are going to be delivering them some kind of media, media file, or if you're going to be doing, if you're giving them coupon codes or whatever, then that could be another useful plugin to sort of make that happen. And probably the other biggest one is Shopify. There's a Shopify plugin for WordPress. So if you're selling something using a Shopify store, then you can integrate it pretty directly into your WordPress site. Although, I'm sure it does take some doing. So kind of the best place to look to sort of to figure out, what kind of get a feel for what types of plugins are popular, what you might want to use and stuff like that, is actually you go to WordPress.org. As I mentioned before, WordPress.org is the home of the WordPress open source software project, basically. And so WordPress is sort of created here, and then it's used on WordPress.com to offer hosting and so forth. But WordPress.org is really the mothership. And so for any version of WordPress, not just on WordPress.com, but for any version of WordPress, you can browse themes and plugins and stuff like that on WordPress.org. So you can click plugins here, scroll down, and you can find sort of little featured ones of various sorts, and you can do a quick search, like e-commerce, and you'll see a bunch of different options here. You can click on one, for example, take a look at the description, make sure it's compatible with your version of WordPress over here on the side, and then see if it has the features that you need. And of course, there are also ratings from users, so you can tell not only what's, and download numbers too. So you can see what's popular and also what's getting good reviews. So 5 million or more sites have had this installed at least at some point. And it's got a pretty good star rating as well. So you can use that to kind of check around and see what you can find there. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have on the e-commerce front. As I mentioned in the first session, if I focus in too much on any particular process of selling stuff on your website, then anybody who doesn't use that plugin and anybody who's not selling that kind of good is going to be excluded, and the information won't be terribly applicable to them. So that's why I'm not going into tons of detail, because that would be a whole other class that's specifically, it'd have to be a whole other class that was specifically like, using Shopify to sell clothes or something like that. And that's not going to apply to the majority of folks, even though it might apply really well to somebody. Okay, so let's talk about the kind of the social media marketing kinds of stuff really briefly as well. Again, this is somewhat dependent on what kinds of things you do and where your sort of marketing energies are being spent and things like that. But it's definitely worth talking about a little bit. So let's go up here. And if I click on marketing, I've got a bunch of options here. Basically, these are all things where they're trying to sell me stuff because they have various revenue sharing agreements. If I look at traffic here, there are some things that if you get interested in what we call search engine optimization or SEO, you have some tools there that you can use, particularly on paid versions of it. And then these connections and sharing buttons are really what I want to show you today. So the connections, these are basically ways to connect your various platforms to your site in a more direct way. So if you're marketing on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Tumblr, you can connect any of those sites and, directly to your account, and then you can publish your posts to those platforms automatically as soon as they go up on your own website. So you'll, so as you're working with, as you're working in the editor before you hit publish, you can kind of tweak how it's going to show up. But basically, it'll automatically generate posts on all of those in all of those places, so that you can very easily share your content there. Down below, we have some connections that do other things, kind of more on the back end, I guess. you can connect your Google Photos. If you use the Google Photos service, it's free, it's handy. I recommend it to a lot of folks actually. If you use the Google Photos service, you can connect your Google account here, and then if you want to take an image that's stored in your Google account in Google Photos and use it on your website, you don't have to download it from Google Photos or copy it over from your phone or whatever, and then upload it to the site. You can instead just click a button in the editor and go directly to Google Photos, pick the photo that you want, and then your site will automatically sort of suck it over from Google Photos and put it in the spot where you want it to be. So that's pretty useful. It'll basically, your Google Photos will become sort of an extended part of the media library of your site. MailChimp, if you have a MailChimp mailing list, you can connect this and folks can sign up for your MailChimp mailing list as they visit your site. And if you do use MailChimp, like, that's a no-brainer. Definitely do that. And then connect it, I should say. Not necessarily that MailChimp itself is a no-brainer, but if you do use it, then you definitely want to promote that on your site. And then finally, Instagram. If you connect it to your Instagram account, you'll get a little Instagram widget where you can show like your latest posts and things like that. Unfortunately, because of the way Instagram works, you can't publish about your new posts directly on your Instagram like you do on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Tumblr. And also because Instagram doesn't allow linking out to other sites, you can't place a link to your new blog post on Instagram either. So all this does is enable that widget, but you know, that might be something you want to have. Next to that is this sharing buttons tab. When I click on that, it's gonna give me these options that show up at the bottom of my blog posts. By default, we've got the reblog one, the like one, and a little avatar here. The reblog button is if somebody has, because I'm using WordPress on WordPress.com, the reblog button will allow them to repost with credit my post on their WordPress.com blog, which could be useful for getting new, new viewers and things like that, building my audience potentially. Or it might just be something that I don't really care for that much. The like button down here, I can, I will emphasize again though, if they do use this reblog button, they're not going to be able to take credit for your work. It will be very clearly a post from your site that they are sharing. So no worries there. The like button here in the WordPress.com reader, which we're not going to get to because it's not that useful. In the WordPress.com reader, you can like things, particular posts on other blogs, and then you'll have an easy way to get to them. It's basically like your favorites or whatever. And then you can add sharing buttons. So if you things like once you connect your social media and stuff like that, you can do that. And there's a more button here where it'll basically allow you to say like, oh, you can share it on more types of things than are shown in the small list. So that's the main stuff about social media. Basically, this area here allows people to share your work easily on social media or on other sites or other platforms. So you can add these, and then they can work it out. As it says, my site is set to private right now because hasn't gone live yet, and so the options are limited. But I could add a share this on Facebook button or share this on Twitter button or whatever, and then people could use that to really easily put my content out there to all of their followers. Okay, so let's talk about exporting, and then we'll get to questions. So if you decide that you don't want to use WordPress.com as your permanent host for whatever reason, flexibility or cost or whatever the case may be, you can export your content so that you can have your site hosted on a different platform, and you don't have to remake your whole situation there. So if I click on this export content, I can select specific types of content, or I can click export all, and that's going to download everything. Pretty well, that's going to download almost everything from my site, text content specifically. If I click download down here, that's going to download all the media files from my site as well. And so once you've got that, it'll basically give you 2 little zip files on your computer. Once you've got those zip files, you can then go to import wherever your new site is hosted, and you can upload those files, and it should kind of like unpack most of the things and for the most part put everything back where it goes in your new hosting situation. And as it says down here, you can even move it to some of these other hosting platforms, some of which don't use WordPress at all. So so yeah, you've got a lot of flexibility there. And the nice thing about WordPress, you know, in general, and WordPress.com specifically, is you do own all of your content. You're not giving up any rights or anything like that when you post content on your site. You know, it's all completely under your control. They're renting you a room on their servers is basically what it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the Q&A stuff here really quick. I see there's one question at least already here. The person said, how did you add 2 menus to the primary location? Mine is only letting me have primary or social menus, but not both. The simple answer is I didn't. What I did was I added the primary menu to 2 menu locations. So, oh, and I added the social menu to its own location. So, for example, so if you look here, my theme supports 3 menu locations. One is the primary menu location, which happens to have the primary menu, the primary set of options located in it. The second menu location that my theme includes is the social menu location, and that happens to be right underneath the primary menu location. So it does kind of look like I have 2 menus in the same location. They're actually in one location that's on top of the other. And then the third menu location that my theme supports is down here in the footer. And so I added the primary menu to the footer and to the primary location. And then I added the social menu to the social menu location. So hopefully that clarifies it. Okay. Somehow, okay, something's happening here.
So Hannah's wanting to know if you import content from, say, GoDaddy, it doesn't do anything crazy like delete the content from GoDaddy, does it?
It shouldn't. Basically, so if you are the normal, sane way for things like that to work, at least, I haven't specifically done that particular process with GoDaddy, but if I have my if I had a site hosted on GoDaddy, what I would need to do to bring content over from it to WordPress.com would be, or I would need to go to somewhere within the GoDaddy. Oh wait, no, sorry. Okay, so yeah, if I click here on this import, I'll enter the address of my site. I'll probably have to do something in order to prove that I own the site that I'm importing from GoDaddy, but it should pull over all the existing content, and it definitely shouldn't remove anything from the existing site, because you'll probably want to tweak it once it comes over to WordPress, and that'll take time, and then you'll need to be able to direct your visitors over there once the new site's ready for prime time, you would say. So yeah, I don't think I would have any concern about that. Let's see. Okay, let me get rid of these two. So someone says, so it's just going to copy the HTML from the site over double question mark. I would think it would do more than that, but I'm not sure exactly how much more. Let's see if they give us some details. Import from GoDaddy. Supported content. Here's a non-exhaustive list of the types of content we can import. Blog posts, static pages, images, various other blocks and features. So they'll try to even replicate things like your widgets and stuff like that. Oh, and there's the other question. Will my GoDaddy site be available during the import? What about afterwards? It will not be affected by the import process. And they tell you about getting your domain name connected over. So no, I mean, most of it should work, but obviously you'll want to at least do a little spot check and see, like, you know, do all of my static pages work and so on and so forth. It's definitely not a URL redirect. It's actually pulling the content over, because you know, you can redirect, but oh, I see what you're saying. They're talking about, so yeah, if you do a redirect with your URL, if you set your URL at the other site to redirect, but you keep the same domain name, what's going to happen is you will well, the new site will be associated with a new address. If you want to keep the overall address of your site the same, then you'll actually need to do a few settings with whoever owns your domain name or is managing your domain name for you, in order to make sure that your site is you know, your site is mapped properly and everything, so that when somebody comes, or because, like, if I have, so let's say that I had, you know, Nathan.pizza, and then I have 5 pages on that site, including an about page. If I create a WordPress site and I replicate all my content, but then my WordPress site still has my WordPress subdomain, so, you know, maybe it's nathanpizza.wordpress.com or whatever, then if somebody goes directly to nathanpizza.wordpress.com and they use the links in, you know, they use the links in the address bar and all of that stuff to get, they use the links in my navigation menu and so forth to get around, starting from the home page, then they're going to be just fine. They won't get lost or anything. But if they're trying to go directly to one of those pages inside of my site, like nathan.pizza/about, then when they type that in, it's still going to take them to the old version of that page, because I haven't changed where my domain name points, and I haven't gotten everything mapped correctly. So yeah, it isn't just a URL redirect. If you want to change your hosting, you actually have to go into the settings for your domain name and change which servers it's pointing to, so that all the addresses in your entire site will work correctly. That's a great question. Okay, so let's see. This says, I got my icon changed and it worked. Thank you. Where does the icon appear? So the icon should appear, the primary place that you'll see it appear, to be honest, is right here at the top of the tab whenever you're looking at your site. So you'll notice when I changed mine, it appeared right here. So I'll see it there. Other places it will appear, if I were to refresh this this link, or if I were to follow this bookmark again, then it should actually refresh and give me that icon in my bookmark there as well. And the other big place that it appears is if somebody creates a specific shortcut to your site. So for example, if they put a shortcut to your site on the desktop of their computer, or if they use the web browser on their mobile device to make an icon on their home screen for their website. Yes, you can do that, by the way. You know, so if you need to be able to get to your own website quickly from your phone or something like that, that's a little tip for you. You can just essentially go into wherever sort of the sharing happens on your mobile device, and you should find the option to add a shortcut on the home screen, and then it'll just open your web browser directly to your site. Pretty handy. So those are the places, those are the kinds of places where that icon will appear. And as it mentioned on the thing, in the WordPress mobile app. So if you use the WordPress mobile app to manage your site, like to approve comments or things like that, then you'll see that icon appear there.
All right, that pretty well empties out the queue. We do have a number of people that are following along on mobile devices, and a couple haven't been able to access the zip file. Just so you know, the alert emails that you received and the follow-up emails from yesterday and today all have links to take you to those two documents: the PDF with all the instructions, and the zip file. So if you weren't able to follow along today, and you're going to do this with videos next week or a month from now, save those emails, because the links to those files are there. They're in a Dropbox account, and I tend to leave stuff in there a good 6 months to a year. So you should be able to get access to those files for a good long while. So you have plenty of time to get those downloaded before those will disappear. All right, that empties out our queue for right now. I'm going to change the screens here real quick for us. And just to remind everybody, tell you thank you. We appreciate you being with us these 3 days. If you have any business problems that we can assist with, please contact ASBTDC. You can reach us out on the phone at 501-683-7700. We have a 24/7 answering service, receiving those calls and forwarding those to us. We're also active on Facebook and Twitter. You can actually message us in those two things, and our communication specialist monitors that, and we'll be right back with you. Somebody had to leave early and was asking about the video. The session's an hour and a half long, so it's taken a little while to get the video processed. The last 2 days we've had it live by 6 o'clock. So about 6 this evening, you can go to our YouTube channel at Arkansas SBTDC on YouTube, and you can watch this again. Everybody will receive an email tomorrow afternoon about this time, and there'll be a link to the video in there as well. And as always, the ASBTDC is a partnership with U.S. Small Business Administration. The U.S. SBA funds a Small Business Development Center program in each of the 50 states and the 6 territories. In Arkansas, the UA Little Rock College of Business runs that program for the SBA. We in turn partner with 6 other universities around the state, providing 8 points of contact that serve all 75 counties. So if you're a small business and you need assistance, particularly right now, trying to get marketing or redoing business processes or finances, whatever the issue is, please reach out to us and get a hold of us.